There was a time when you wandered through the valley of trials, questioning if God had forgotten you. The nights were long, the burdens heavy, and the silence from heaven felt deafening. But what if I told you that those trials were never meant to break you, only to shape you? What if every struggle, every tear, was merely the chisel sculpting you into the vessel God intended you to be? Now the storm has passed, the weight has lifted, and the divine whisper is clear. It is time. Not time to strive, not time to chase, but time to receive. Because wealth, true wealth, is not something you force into your life. It is something that flows toward those who are ready. And you, my friend, God's chosen ones, the trials are over. Now you're going to be a millionaire. There is a rhythm to the universe, a grand and effortless unfolding. And those who resist it find themselves caught in endless struggle. But those who surrender, those who learn to move with the divine current, become vessels through which abundance flows. You have walked through trials, wondering when the weight would lift, questioning whether God had abandoned you. But now the trials are over. The door that once seemed locked was never truly closed. It was waiting for you to step into the realization that you were never lacking, only being prepared. And now the preparation is complete. The season of suffering has served its purpose. The wealth that has always been yours is simply aligning itself with your readiness to receive. Understand this: money, success, prosperity, these things are not separate from God's will. They are not distractions from a spiritual life, nor are they rewards for ceaseless toil. They are the natural consequence of alignment, the inevitable unfolding of purpose. A tree does not force itself to grow. It simply reaches toward the light. The rivers do not struggle to find the ocean. They flow there naturally. And in the same way, divine wealth does not come through anxious striving, but through understanding that you are already connected to its source. For too long you have been taught that suffering is proof of devotion, that struggle is necessary to earn God's favor. But look at the lilies of the field, clothed in beauty without effort. Consider the birds of the air, provided for without striving. Are you not worth more than these? The idea that you must endlessly labor, that you must fight and claw your way to abundance, is an illusion born of fear. And fear, my friend, is not of God. The moment you let go of this fear, the moment you stop seeing wealth as something distant and begin to recognize it as something already within you, the floodgates open. But here is the paradox. The more you chase money, the more it eludes you. Like a butterfly that flits away when pursued, but lands gently on the shoulder of one who stands still. Why? Because chasing is an act of fear, and fear is the great separator. Those who truly understand the nature of divine abundance do not chase, they allow. They do not see money as something external to be attained, but as something already present, waiting to manifest in its perfect time. You were never meant to live in lack. You were never meant to struggle endlessly while others thrive. You were chosen, set apart, destined to walk in divine abundance, not for your own sake alone, but because God's blessings flow through you to bless others. This is not just about money. It is about expansion, about stepping into the fullness of who you were created to be. And yes, part of that fullness is wealth. For how can you uplift? How can you serve? How can you be the hands and feet of God in this world if you yourself are in constant need? Now you are stepping into a new reality. The energy has shifted, the old struggles have passed, and everything you have prayed for is now unfolding before you. It will not come as the world expects, not through relentless toil, nor through schemes or striving, but through faith, through trust, through the deep knowing that as you walk in alignment with God's purpose, everything else follows. The trials are over. The lessons have been learnt. Now stand in this truth. Wealth is your birthright, and you are finally ready to receive it. The struggles you faced were never punishments. They were not signs that you had been forgotten or that God had withheld his blessings from you. No, they were the refining fire, the molding of your spirit, the preparation for what was always meant to be yours. You see, the universe operates on a divine rhythm, a flow that is far greater than the plans of man, and everything you went through, every delay, every disappointment, every door that seemed to close in your face, was not a denial but a setup. A divine orchestration to bring you into alignment with what was already waiting for you. The suffering was never the destination. It was simply the path that shaped you, taught you, and made you ready for the abundance that is now arriving. There comes a moment when you realize that the very things you thought were holding you back were actually working in your favor. The setbacks were not barriers, they were detours leading you to something far greater. The pain was not meant to destroy you, it was meant to strengthen you. Now, as you stand on the other side of those trials, something within you has changed. You no longer beg for blessings, you expect them. You no longer question your worthiness. You know that you are chosen, and that shift, that deep and quiet confidence, is the key that unlocks the floodgates of abundance. You see, wealth does not come to those who frantically grasp for it, fearing it may slip away. It does not come to those who are ruled by desperation. It comes to those who understand that they are already connected to the source of all things. Those who realize that abundance is not something they must fight for, but something they must allow. This is the moment where you step into that knowing, the moment you stop pleading and start receiving, because now the trials are over, and you are walking into the reality that was always meant for you. God does not give small gifts. He does not bless in fragments. When he moves in overflow, and that overflow is what you are stepping into now. But understand this, the wealth that is coming to you is not just about money. It is about expansion in every sense of the word. It is about becoming a vessel for divine abundance, a conduit through which blessings can flow, not just to you, but through you. Because when God blesses, he blesses with purpose. He lifts you so that you may lift others. He fills your cup so that it may run over and nourish those around you. This is why you were tested. This is why the waiting was necessary. Because had the blessings come too soon, you would not have known how to carry them. You would not have understood the responsibility that comes with abundance. But now you do. Now you are no longer attached to money as a means of validation. You do not see wealth as something to be hoarded, but as something to be shared, something that flows effortlessly to those who are aligned with its purpose. And because you have reached this place of understanding, you are finally ready to receive what has been prepared for you all along. The universe is abundant, God is limitless. There is no shortage, no lack, no reason to live in fear of not having enough. Those who operate from fear cling tightly to what little they have, afraid that if they release it, they will be left with nothing. But those who understand the truth of divine abundance know that money, like water, must flow, that to give is to receive, that to trust is to multiply. You have reached the point where you no longer see wealth as something separate from you. You embody it. You attract it effortlessly, not because you chase it, but because you have become a magnet for it. And now, as you step into this new reality, as you walk in the fullness of your divine calling, you will see that the waiting was never in vain. The trials are over. The blessings have begun. And you, my friend, are about to experience the kind of abundance that can only come from God. There is a sacred moment in every journey when the weight lifts, when the storm settles, and when the realization dawns upon you that everything you endured was not in vain. You have reached that moment. The battles, the uncertainty, the nights spent wondering if your breakthrough would ever come, those were never signs of abandonment, but rather the markings of a chosen one being refined for something greater. You were not being punished, you were being prepared. and now the season of preparation has ended. You are stepping into the wealth, the abundance, the divine prosperity that was always yours. The only difference is that now you are ready to receive it. The world has conditioned you to believe that money is something you must chase, something that comes only through relentless struggle, through sleepless nights and ceaseless striving. But look at nature. The trees do not chase the sunlight. They grow toward it. The ocean does not struggle to fill its shores. It simply moves in harmony with the tide. And in the same way, wealth is not something you must grasp for with anxious hands. It is something that flows naturally when you align yourself with the divine rhythm of abundance. You were never meant to scrape by, never meant to live in a state of lack. Your trials were not a sign that you were undeserving. They were a sign that something magnificent was being built within you. The reason so many struggle with wealth is because they view it as something external, something separate from themselves. They see money as a prize to be won, a distant treasure that must be hunted down. But here is the truth. Abundance is not outside of you. It is within you. The moment you recognize this, the moment you stop seeing wealth as something you must earn and start seeing it as something you must allow, everything changes. Money is energy, prosperity is a current, and those who truly understand this do not chase, they attract. They do not fear losing wealth because they know it is limitless. They do not cling to every dollar in desperation because they understand that giving is the key to receiving. You have walked the path of trials. You have faced moments that tested your faith, moments that tried to convince you that you were forgotten. But look at you now. You are still standing. You did not break. And because of that, you are about to see just how deeply God has been working behind the scenes on your behalf. This is not just a financial shift. It is a spiritual awakening. Because true wealth is not just about what you have. It is about who you become. It is about the realization that you were never lacking, that everything you needed was already within you, waiting for the right moment to manifest. This is the moment. The trials are over. The waiting is over. You no longer have to wonder if your time will ever come. It is here. But wealth is not simply given to those who desire it. It is entrusted to those who are ready to handle it with wisdom, with purpose, with a heart that understands its true value. And you, having walked through the fire and emerged refined, are ready. No longer do you question your worthiness. No longer do you shrink back in doubt. You walk forward boldly, knowing that the abundance flowing into your life is not random. It is your birthright. What comes next is beyond what you have imagined. The doors that once seemed closed will open with ease. The resources you once struggled to find will flow effortlessly toward you. Opportunities, divine connections, supernatural favor, these will become your new reality, not because you fought for them, not because you struggled until you had nothing left to give, but because you finally understand that God's blessings do not come through strain. They come through surrender. They come through the unseen presence. You are a vessel, a conduit through which divine abundance flows. And because of that, not only will you be blessed, but you will become a blessing to others. The trials are over. The delay is over. Wealth is no longer a distant hope. It is your present reality. Now all you must do is step into it. There was a time when you felt lost in the wilderness, where every step forward felt like a struggle and every door seemed to close before you could walk through it. You cried out, asking God why the road was so difficult, why the breakthrough never seemed to come, why you had to endure setback after setback while others seemed to thrive. But what you did not see in those moments was the divine preparation unfolding beneath the surface. Just as gold is refined through fire, just as a seed must break apart in the darkness before it can rise into the light, your journey was never about suffering for suffering's sake. It was about shaping you into someone who could carry the blessings that were always meant to be yours. And now the time has come. The trials that once felt endless have served their purpose, and the path ahead is clear. You are no longer waiting for your breakthrough, you are standing in it. The wealth, the abundance, the divine prosperity that was once a distant vision is now unfolding before you, not because you have chased it, but because you have aligned yourself with it. You see, the greatest secret to abundance is not found in striving, but in surrender. Those who try to force their way into wealth, who act from desperation or fear, find themselves exhausted, constantly reaching but never grasping. But those who understand the natural flow of divine provision, those who trust that what is meant for them will come in perfect timing, are the ones who step into effortless prosperity. Look around you. The universe is abundant, the oceans are vast, the trees bear endless fruit, the stars in the sky cannot be counted. Lack is not a part of God's design. Abundance is. And if this is true for nature, how much more is it true for you, His chosen one? You were never meant to live in a state of scarcity. The waiting, the struggle, the moments of uncertainty were never signs that you were forgotten. They were signs that something greater was being prepared for you. But the moment has arrived. The lessons have been learned. The doors that once seemed locked will now open effortlessly, because you are no longer knocking with desperation. You are stepping forward in confidence. Wealth is not something that appears out of thin air. It is the result of stepping into your divine assignment, of recognizing that you were created with a purpose that is far greater than yourself. And now that you have walked through the fire, now that you have proven that you can withstand the storms, you are stepping into the reality that was always meant for you. Money, success, prosperity, these things are not distractions from God's plan. They are tools, resources entrusted to those who are ready to use them, with wisdom, generosity, and a heart aligned with His will. You no longer need to chase. You no longer need to wonder if your moment will ever come. The shift has already taken place. The wealth that is coming to you is not just financial. It is a transformation of your entire being. You will think differently, move differently, see the world through new eyes. The energy of lack, of fear, of limitation no longer has power over you. You now understand that abundance is your birthright, not because you are entitled to it, but because you have become someone who can carry it. This is your new reality. Doors will open, opportunities will present themselves, money will flow to you, not through struggle, but through alignment. You will no longer live in a mindset of scarcity, worrying about when your next breakthrough will come. Instead, you will live in the certainty that it is already here. The trials are over. The struggle has ended. Now you are stepping fully into the wealth, the success, and the divine favor that have been waiting for you all along. You have been walking a long road, one filled with trials that tested your patience, your faith, and your endurance. There were moments when you wondered if the breakthrough would ever come, when the weight of waiting felt unbearable, when you questioned whether God had truly set you apart for something greater. But now, as you stand on the other side of those struggles, you can see what was really happening all along. You were never being denied, you were being prepared. Every delay, every setback, every painful moment of uncertainty was shaping you, refining you, aligning you with the version of yourself who could step into the abundance that was always meant for you. The world will tell you that success and wealth come through relentless striving, through endless work, through sleepless nights of anxiety and stress. But you are not of the world. You do not operate by its rules. You do not chase what is already yours. The moment you release the need to force, to control, to make things happen through your own strength, you step into a flow of divine provision that moves effortlessly, like a river returning to the sea. This is the great paradox of abundance. It does not come to those who grasp for it in desperation, but to those who open themselves to receive it. You are now stepping into a reality where the struggle is no longer necessary. The trials have served their purpose, The long nights of wondering when things would change are over. You no longer need to fight for the blessings that are already on their way. God's favor is not something that must be earned through suffering. It is something that is freely given to those who are ready to carry it with wisdom and purpose. And now, after everything you have endured, you are ready. Wealth is not just about money. It is about expansion, about stepping into a life where you are no longer bound by limitation, where you no longer operate from a place of fear, where you no longer see success as something distant but as something inevitable. When you understand that you were created for more, that abundance is not outside of you but within you, everything changes. Suddenly opportunities appear where there were none. The doors that once seemed impossible to open swing wide with ease. The resources, connections, and financial breakthroughs that once felt just out of reach begin to flow toward you naturally, without struggle, without force, because you are finally aligned with the truth of who you are. This is not luck. This is not chance. This is divine orchestration. And the wealth that is coming to you is not for selfish gain. It is for impact. It is for transformation. It is for the purpose God has placed within you. You are not being blessed just so that you can sit in comfort. You are being blessed so that you can be a blessing. You are stepping into a season where financial miracles, business opportunities, and unexpected provisions will not just touch your life, but will overflow into the lives of those around you. Because when God elevates one of His chosen ones, He does not do it in secret. He does it in a way that inspires, uplifts, and multiplies blessings for many. Now, you are walking in a new frequency. You are no longer waiting for abundance. It is waiting for you. The struggles that once defined your journey are no longer your reality. The shift has happened. You are moving differently, thinking differently, stepping into a version of yourself that no longer questions, no longer doubts, no longer wonders if wealth is for you. You know it is for you. You claim it. You receive it. You embrace it. And as you do, watch as everything in your life transforms. The trials are over. The delay is over. Now you rise into the divine prosperity that has been yours all along. Distant religious sense, but in the very breath of the universe itself. Just as a wave arises not separate from the ocean, but as the ocean, so too do you arise. Not apart from God, but as part of God's unfolding. You are the divine expressed in human form, and that changes everything. You see, most people walk through life with the quiet suspicion that they were a mistake, an accident, as though their existence were some cosmic fluke. But what if I told you the very opposite is true? You are not here by chance. You were not thrown into this world as some orphaned soul. You were chosen, not in some distant religious sense, but in the very breath of the universe itself. Just as a wave arises not separate from the ocean, but as the ocean, so too do you arise, not apart from God, but as part of God's unfolding. Now, I don't mean chosen in the way we often hear it, in the way that makes some feel superior and others forgotten. No, I mean chosen like a note in a song, necessary and unique. Chosen like a star in the sky, holding its place in the great constellation of existence. You see, God does not pick favorites like a school teacher handing out gold stars. God flows through all things, yet expresses Himself uniquely through you. Your presence is not a random flicker on the screen of time. It is an intentional flame lit by the infinite. And I know what you might be thinking. If I've been chosen, why do I feel forgotten? If God's chosen me, why do I suffer? Why do I struggle? Why do I question? But perhaps that is the very proof of your being chosen. For God does not choose the polished, the pristine, the perfect. He chooses the cracked vessel, because that is where the light can shine through. He chooses the uncertain heart, the doubting mind, the trembling spirit, because only they can truly be filled. You were chosen not to escape the pain of life, but to move through it with deeper awareness. The trials you face are not obstacles to your calling. They are initiation rites into it. Like a seed that must crack open to reveal the tree within, you too must be broken in order to become. And it is in that breaking, in that unraveling, where your divine appointment begins to reveal itself. The being chosen doesn't mean you must suddenly become someone else. It doesn't mean you need to fix yourself, prove yourself, or run after some elusive ideal. Being chosen means awakening to what you already are. The oak tree is not added to the acorn. It is uncovered by time. You are not meant to create your worth, but to remember it. You were chosen not for who you will become, but because of who you already are. That very breath you're taking now. That is the evidence. You are alive. You are aware. You are here. And that, my friend, is enough. The tragedy of modern life is that we are constantly told we must become more to matter. But the divine whispers a deeper truth. You were chosen as you are. And the unfolding of your life is not a problem to solve, but a mystery to behold. So trust the rhythm, trust the chaos, trust even the silence. For you are not waiting to be chosen. You are never not chosen. Long before you questioned your worth, long before you doubted your place, long before the world whispered its lies into your ears, the truth already stood. You are the beloved of the infinite. The moment you begin to realize that you were not just thrown into the universe, but rather that you are the universe unfolding as a human being, everything begins to change. You are not simply a body navigating through time, seeking meaning. You are meaning itself, expressed in flesh and bone. And the reason this truth feels so unfamiliar is because we've been conditioned to forget it. We've been told to earn what we already are. We've been taught to search for a divine connection that has never once left us. To be chosen by God is not to be handed a golden certificate. It is not to wear a badge or carry a title. It is to awaken to the sacredness of this very moment. It is to know, without needing to prove, that you are a vessel of something eternal. The infinite became you, not to hide, but to reveal itself through your experience, your perspective, your voice, and yes, even your pain. Have you all looked at the night sky and felt both tiny and infinite all at once? That is the paradox of being chosen. You are part of something so vast that it defies all comprehension, and yet you are so intimately held by it that not a hair on your head goes unnoticed. You are not an afterthought in creation. You are an instrument in God's ongoing symphony. And like any true instrument, your job is not to sound like all the others. It is to resonate fully in your own tone, your own vibration, your own path. But here's the mystery. God's choosing is not always loud. It doesn't arrive with lightning bolts or burning bushes. Sometimes it comes as stillness, as an ache in the heart, as a quiet, persistent feeling that you were meant for more, not in the way of achievement, but in the way of alignment. It's that sense that there's a deeper rhythm beneath the noise of daily life, and you're being invited to dance to it, even if no one else hears the music. When you are chosen, you begin to see life differently. The closed doors aren't punishments, they are redirections. The delays are not rejections, they are gestation periods for something more honest, more whole. You stop trying to control everything. and instead begin to trust the timing of your unfolding. That is the great relief of being chosen. You no longer need to force your way through life. You simply need to surrender to the current already carrying you forward. And yet this is not a passive surrender. It is the surrender of a surfer catching a wave, of a dancer responding to the music. You are not giving up. You are tuning in. You are remembering that this life is not something happening to you. It is happening through you. The divine does not shout its love. It breathes it. It doesn't demand your attention. It beckons it softly. When you feel lost, when you feel small, when the world tries to convince you that you are unworthy, return to this, the simple, breathtaking fact that you are alive. That breath in your lungs, that's the universe saying, yes, still you, still chosen, still part of the whole. You don't have to become someone else to be worthy of God's love. You are already the person God has chosen to express something sacred, something real, something no one else can bring. You are the brushstroke that completes the painting, the word that finishes the poem, the note that makes the chord sing. You don't need permission to walk in purpose. You are the permission. You are the purpose. You are the miracle you've been waiting for. And all along, God has whispered, through silence, through stars, through every moment of grace and pain alike, I have chosen you. I have never stopped choosing you. There's a strange kind of humility that comes with realizing you've been chosen by something greater than yourself. It's not arrogance. It's not ego. It's a quiet inner reverence. A deep bow to the fact that out of infinite possibilities, the divine chose to awaken in you to see through your eyes, feel through your heart, and experience the beauty and chaos of life through your story. And yet we spend so much of our lives trying to become worthy of what we already are. We chase approval, success, validation, not realizing that these are poor substitutes for divine remembrance, because the truth is, you can't earn what is already yours. God didn't choose you because of your performance. He chose you because of your essence, your being, your aliveness. The ego often says, I must strive in order to be enough, but the soul already knows, I am, therefore I am enough. And this remembering doesn't always happen in the grand moments. Sometimes it comes while doing something ordinary, washing the dishes, walking alone, laughing with a friend, and in that fleeting, sacred moment, the veil lifts, the illusion of separation dissolves. You remember, you are not apart from life. You are life, chosen to awaken to itself. You see, being chosen is not a reward. It's a responsibility, but not in the heavy, burdensome way we often imagine. It's not about pressure. It's about presence. It means living each moment with awareness, with gratitude, and with a daring belief that your presence here matters, not in some abstract theoretical way, but in the real, grounded truth that someone's life will be changed just because you showed up as you. When you finally accept that you've been chosen, a gentle courage begins to rise within you. Not the kind that demands to be noticed, but the kind that walks quietly with the unshakable peace of knowing its source. You stop hiding. You stop shrinking. You stop apologizing for your light, because now you understand it wasn't given to you to hold or to dim. It was given to shine, even when no one claps, even when no one understands. And yes, there will be days when you forget, days when you doubt, days when everything inside you whispers, maybe I'm not enough after all. But even then, even in your forgetting, you are still chosen. Because this isn't a status you lose when you fall apart. It's not revoked in your moments of fear, your seasons of silence, or your years of wandering. You were chosen before the first beat of your heart, and nothing. So don't wait for a sign in the sky. Don't wait for the perfect conditions or the perfect version of yourself. The divine never asks for perfection. It asks for participation. It asks for your presence. It asks for your yes. And sometimes that yes won't be loud. Sometimes it will be a whisper, a small act of kindness, a decision to love again, to try again, to breathe again. But every yes, no matter how quiet, sends ripples through eternity. You are not lost. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you're meant to be, to hear this truth again. You are chosen. You are held. You are loved, not because of what you can offer, but because of who you already are. And the beauty of this divine choosing is that it's not just about you. As you awaken, others awaken. As you remember, others remember. What's astonishing is that we often wait for some grand cosmic moment to confirm that we are chosen, some unmistakable sign from the heavens. But God rarely works through spectacle. More often, he whispers through subtleties, through the sunrise that greets you before your alarm, through the stranger who smiles when you feel invisible, through the peace that finds you in the middle of your storm. You see, the divine doesn't always arrive with thunder. It often tiptoes in, like breath, soft, unnoticed, yet utterly essential. To be chosen is to belong, not in a group or club, but in the very heart of existence. You belong to the stars and the soil, to the silence and the song. You are not an outsider looking in. You are the very pulse of the universe participating in its own revelation. And once you see that, you can never again feel truly alone, because now you know the same force that spins galaxies chose to dwell in you. But here's the thing. Being chosen doesn't always feel like glory. Sometimes it feels like being broken open. Sometimes it feels like loss, like waiting, like wandering without a map. Sometimes it feels like the wilderness, dry, empty, endless. But the wilderness is not a punishment, it's a preparation. It's where noise fades and the soul grows quiet enough to hear God's true voice. It's where the false falls away and only what's real remains. So if you're there now, in that quiet in-between space, don't rush it. Don't curse it. Let it do its sacred work in you. Because being chosen doesn't mean being comfortable. It means being awakened. It means being carved out so something greater can fill you. And yes, awakening hurts. It stretches. It exposes. But it also liberates. It frees you from the illusion that you were ever meant to live small, scared, or silent. It calls you out of hiding, not because the world demands your performance, but because the world needs your presence. And maybe you're thinking, I don't feel chosen, I feel tired, I feel forgotten, but feelings are not facts. The truth is deeper than emotion. Beneath every doubt, beneath every fear, beneath every tear you've ever cried, there remains a still, burning truth. You were formed with intention, seen with compassion, and chosen in love. Long before you asked, you were answered. Long before you searched, you were found. You didn't choose yourself into being. Life chose you. God chose you. You don't have to hustle for holiness. You don't have to manufacture meaning. Your very existence is the miracle. Your breath is the sacred text. Your story is already a sermon, and your scars are not shameful. They are proof of your rising. They are where the divine light leaked through. Every wound, every stumble, every moment you thought disqualified you, has only deepened the sacred echo within you. And you are not chosen alone. Every soul you meet is another window into the divine. Every face carries a reflection of that same mystery. When you recognize that in yourself, you start to recognize it in others. You begin to see not competition, but connection, not separation, but shared soul. And this is how the world changes, not by force, not by fear, but by remembrance. One soul awakening another, one light kindling another, one chosen life showing another what it means to be. So let your life be that flame. Let your quiet yes ripple into eternity. And in that knowing, you don't need to become anything else. You only need to be. God's chosen you, and He keeps choosing you, moment after moment, breath after breath, forever. There's a quiet power that begins to grow inside you once you fully accept that you've been chosen, not by merit, not by mistake, but by mystery. And it's not the kind of power that needs to shout or dominate. It's the kind of power that sits calmly in the center of a storm and knows, without doubt, that the storm too shall pass. The kind that walks into a room not to be seen, but to see, to recognize the divine flicker in every eye, in every story, in every moment. When you know you've been chosen, you stop racing. You stop competing. You stop proving. Because now your value is not hanging in the balance. It is already grounded in eternity. And from that roundedness comes clarity, not always about where you're going or what's coming next, but about who you are. And that's what the world needs more than ever. People who have remembered. People who carry that remembrance into everything they touch, into their work, into their conversations, into their silence. You begin to live differently. Not perfectly, but authentically. You start to show up with your whole heart, even if it's bruised. You speak not to impress, but to bless. You listen, not to respond, but to understand. You move through life with a deep reverence for the fact that every breath is a gift. Every interaction is sacred. Every interaction is sacred. Every interaction is sacred. Every interaction is sacred. And the strange thing is, the more deeply you embrace that you are chosen, this is the real miracle. The knowing doesn't make you better, it makes you kinder. It doesn't elevate you above others, it brings you closer to them. You start to understand that God's choosing wasn't about exclusivity, it was about awakening. And as you awaken, you realize there was never a hierarchy, only harmony waiting to be heard again. You don't rise to the top, you return to the center. And in that center you find peace. Not the peace that depends on circumstances, but the peace that comes from alignment. That steady, quiet peace that says, I am where I need to be. I am becoming what I was born to become. I am not late. I am not lost. I am not lacking. Even when everything outside of you feels uncertain, something inside of you remains unmoved. That's the root of divine choosing. Not that life will be easy, but that your soul will be anchored. Anchored in truth, anchored in love, anchored in the unshakable awareness that you are not here by accident. You are here on purpose, with purpose, for purpose. So even when the world seems noisy, don't let it drown out the whisper that says keep going, keep trusting, keep becoming. Because every step you take in remembrance is a step that brings more light into this world. And when you forget, as you surely will, remember this: God never stopped choosing you. Not when you doubted, not when you fell, not when you went silent. Even in your distance, he remained near. Even in your hiding, he kept calling. Because being chosen isn't a moment. It's a thread woven through your entire being. It's not something you earn, it's something you carry. And no matter how far you roam, the truth always remains the same. You are chosen. You are loved. You see, there's a curious thing about those who are called, those we might call the chosen ones. They walk with a certain light, a certain knowing. But often beneath that radiance there simmers a quiet struggle, one they dare not speak of too loudly. Lust. Now why is that? Why should those who are awakening to the divine, to the eternal dance of the cosmos, feel such intensity of earthly desire? It's because to be chosen is not to escape the human experience, but to feel it more deeply, to be both fire and form, flesh and infinity. And so, lust isn't just a distraction, it's a doorway. And maybe, just maybe, it's trying to teach us something far more profound than we realize. You see, we often imagine that spiritual enlightenment is some sort of escape from the human condition, as if by waking up, by becoming aware, one is suddenly exempt from the very instincts that make us human. But that's the great illusion. In truth, to be awakened is not to transcend the body, but to embrace its complexity, its ache, its beauty, and yes, even its desires. The chosen ones, the so-called awakened, live with a peculiar tension. They know deep in their being that they are more than just flesh and bone. They feel the pulse of something eternal beneath the surface of form, and yet here they are, incarnated, living in skin, with hormones, with urges, with hungers, that do not vanish simply because they've tasted spiritual awareness. If anything, awareness magnifies everything. It makes life more vivid, more intense, more real. And that includes lust. Lust is not the enemy. Lust is energy, raw, undirected, powerful. It is not evil, as some might suggest. It is not a moral failure or a spiritual flaw. It is the natural fire that arises when life longs to know itself more intimately. The problem is not in the feeling, but in the framing. We have been taught to split ourselves in two, the sacred and the profane, the soul and the body, the holy and the horny. Genuineness and freedom. Meanwhile, I would rather be genuineness and freedom, the sacred and the profane, the soul and the body, the holy and the horny. That such divisions are artificial. They come not from spirit, but from systems designed to control spirit. You see, when one is chosen, when one begins to walk the path of awareness, they carry within them the duality of the human and the divine. And that duality does not vanish with more meditation, more fasting, more prayer. If anything, those practices bring the contrast into sharper focus. The more you try to escape desire, the more it follows you, like a shadow you haven't yet made peace with. Because, quite simply, you cannot be fully alive and not feel desire. To be without desire is to be a ghost. The mistake we often make is thinking that lust is merely about the body, that it is base, animalistic, lower. But desire at its core is sacred. It is the movement of life itself. It is the longing to merge, to dissolve into something or someone beyond the self. It is the echo of the soul's deepest truth, that we are not separate, that we crave union. And while lust may clothe itself in the language of bodies, its root is often far deeper. A yearning to remember the oneness we once knew, perhaps before form perhaps before time. And so chosen ones struggle not because they are weak, but because they are awake. To wrestle with lust is not a failure. It is a sign that one is alive, fully alive. And being fully alive means being willing to sit with the paradoxes of existence. The chosen are not above temptation. They are inside it. They are dancing with it. They are learning slowly that perhaps the path is not to conquer the flesh, but to listen to it, to honor its wisdom, to let the energy of desire become a fire that warms, not burns. Because in the end, the body is not your enemy, it is your temple. And the fire within it is not a curse. It is a spark of the same flame that lights the stars. What happens when we tell a river not to flow? When we dam it, block it, shame it for moving in the direction it was born to follow? It doesn't disappear. It builds pressure. It gathers force behind the walls we construct until eventually it finds a way to burst through, often chaotically, sometimes destructively. So it is with desire, especially with lust. When we suppress it, judge it, hide it beneath cloaks of guilt and spiritual pride, it doesn't vanish. It festers. It grows teeth in the dark.